What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Easy Button Real Estate Podcast with your host, Mr. Tucker Merrihew, and myself, Cole Ruud-Johnson. Back on the mic, back in the saddle. Tucker, what is going on in your world down in Naples? Now it's about a week before Christmas. I don't even know how it's a week before Christmas. I feel like it was just Halloween 2 weeks ago, but that's how it
goes
goes.
fast, doesn't it? This time of year it just flies, especially
The days are
between
so short.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, it's that too. Well, it's I think we got 82, 83 and sunny today. It's supposed to be all week, so I'm actually thinking that I might even crank the pool heater on. I know that sounds crazy to some people. It's 82, 83 degrees, and I'm gonna crank the pool heater on so that we can swim in the pool on Christmas Day. But this is like probably the second, like Thanksgiving week gets busy down here in Naples for people coming in vacationing, obviously, and then the next real big block of busyness is, essentially, let's call it tomorrow through past New Year's. And so, fortunately, the best way to book out your houses here is you kind of get two groups, because if you get one in the middle, you don't maximize your money. So this year, I kind of learned from last year to try and get a group on the front end, which basically they stay through Christmas, maybe a day or two after, and then you get another group that comes in over New Year's. And your dollars per night here are significantly higher during this 2-week period. So you really want to kill it if you can, and getting those two groups in there allows you to, you're not burning any days or nights. You're getting money out of all of them. So we've got everything booked up, and I just was kind of punching out this week on the houses, making sure everything's, working the way it should, and we can kind of get through the holidays without me having to, deal with any bullshit or whatever, just kind of preemptively dealing with everything that I think needs to be dealt with, and hopefully it goes smooth. But yeah, it's our busy time. So looking forward to it. We got to, we're grabbing a lot of rent money in the next, 2 or 3 months. So this is the time of year where I get to play a little bit more property manager and a little less real estate developer.
It's funny how when you move somewhere warm, like in San Diego and you in Florida, I remember when I lived in Seattle, we'd travel and I didn't really care what the pool temperature was. I'm like, if it's sunny out and there's a pool, I could be, and now I'm such like a stickler about pool temp. Like, I'll be like, oh, this is like 82. This isn't 88, 89, 87. It's so funny. Yeah, we've had incredible weather here too. It's been 75 and sunny all December, but I think we're actually going to have a little cooler Christmas in the upper 60s, low 70s, but still nothing like.
Break out the puffy coats.
Yeah, I've been wearing my puffy coat. It's a couple months where you can, but nothing like the windstorms and the craziness up in Seattle that they're having right now, and the darkness is just different there. So, but yeah, that's a funny thing. But yeah, I've been doing some traveling, been out of the office for here and there, working remote, and it's a crazy time of year, so I've been off the mic for a while. That I haven't asked you in a while about an update on that higher end build you're doing. Are you guys still kind of on pause on that, or what's going on there?
No, I've just been getting beat up
by the city.
Way to put it. It's okay. So here's the reality of like building, right? Especially when you go build in like an area where people can make a lot of money, right? There's a lot of affluence that comes in and buys the houses, that hires builders to build them. And so the service providers, the municipalities, the inspectors, they really try and make it difficult for new people to kind of get into that market, so to speak, right? So, there's a lot of hazing that goes on, or a combination of hazing and lack of information being provided to you to kind of shorten your learning curve or your timeline and whatever it is. So we're planning on starting construction here the beginning of January, and the last couple of months have just been brutal with city coming back and saying they want this or they want that. We had to change the way that our driveway was situated. We did have a pull through driveway. Now we have kind of a single approach driveway, but I wanted to still be able to, driveway can be a big factor in the perceived value of a home and also the functionality of it, right? Especially when you get into the higher end. So they had a tree in the right of way that they wanted me to keep, which happens to be this like scraggly, ugly tree. So we redid that. And then it turns out there were two like really cool trees in the right of way that I wanted to keep. And during one of our inspections, the inspector came out for the right of way and he said, you actually have to cut those trees down, which I never would have done because coming from, Portland, Seattle, like if you touch a tree, you're going to jail, right? Or at a minimum, they're going to fine you like $8 million. Yeah, and take away your contractor license and, people will be picketing your job sites. I mean, all kinds of stuff. So I was like, "You really want me to cut down these trees?" And they were like, "Yes, or you can apply for permits to try and keep them, but that would just extend our process by so much longer, kinda going back and forth because it's social engineering on their end on what they want." But either way, I was like, "You gotta be kidding me." So I cut them down, and, long story short is, we've got our building permit, we're ready to roll, we're gonna start after the holidays, but, it's just been one thing after another. So I feel like now, it would go a lot faster, but, I tried to use it as an opportunity, to get to know all of the, plans reviewers, inspectors down at the city of Naples. That way, the next time it goes through, it's easy for people to be kind of a dick or be difficult behind email, maybe even
Yeah,
behind a phone call.
yeah.
But if you meet with these people, you go down and see them, you sit at their desk, you meet them on site, you talk to them. Generally, people are a lot easier on you the next time through. So I've just been kind of taking this learning experience in stride best I can. Obviously, it's frustrating, but I've also been trying to build these relationships, just like we used to do back in like Oswego in the Portland area, with people that allowed us to build a lot faster and kind of just get through the system quicker. And a lot of those places had some of the same problems we have here in terms of hazing and making things difficult. Here, I'd say it's a little bit more, but the money factor is 10x more here in terms of what stuff can sell for, maybe more than that. So we're there, but it's been a hell of a process, hell of a learning experience.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I feel like that people don't talk about when they talk about real estate actually doing bigger deals is I feel like it's like all relationships. Like the people that can get a deal done on time and the ones that can't, it's just kind of who you know. I was talking to Jimmy and he was telling me about, he started this charity recently and the charity is because, a lot of parts of town give him grief over, they call him a gentrifier and stuff. And so he's created a charity where 5%, or I think it's 5 or 10, maybe even 10% of their proceeds from flips in that area go to a fund to, help people who can't afford to fix their roof or and that end up turning over. And that it's gone so far for him getting permits done, people being nice to him, helping him along the process. And, because it got bad enough where he had like full on protests of like hundreds of people walking to his development projects and different things. So I
Well,
think that's
that sounds like the Pacific
yeah,
Northwest.
that's a little different than Florida, different
I
issues.
mean, good for him for doing that. Doing good, but he probably also saw it as a way to hopefully say, "Look, I'm not such a bad guy," right? And
Yeah.
the whole like gentrifying thing, it's so weird because like here, every time we've taken a shitty house, we've made it nice, or we've tore it down, built something in its place, every neighbor is like, "Awesome, thank you, way to get it done." In the Pacific Northwest, it was probably 80-20. You're the devil. What are you doing? You're pushing out minorities and all this stuff that is completely not true. But in their minds, it is, and so they build up all this hate and disdain for you. And then obviously, if you're Jimmy, sometimes they pick at your job sites or whatever, just to make your life miserable. But I tell you what, I don't. As difficult as this process has been, kind of learning, how everything works through the city of Naples. I would deal with that every day of the week versus the crazy nut jobs in the Northwest that we would have to deal with on a daily basis that just you can never get through to them. They're just always going to have all this hatred that they gotta direct it somewhere. And you as the gentrifier, you're you're the best target that they have, at least for the time being.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, got the rentals going on, got the new build going on. A couple updates for you guys that listen to the show on what we have going on at Easy Button, and then we're going to talk a lot about 2026 planning, that kind of stuff. I'll talk about kind of my take. Tucker will obviously talk about his take. We are doing what's become kind of our annual winter summit, which is we choose a place and we go ski and snowboard. Usually 20-25 people come. We did it 2 years ago. We did Keystone, Colorado, and the last year we were in Park City. And this year we're back in Park City just because it's, hour drive from the airport, easy to get to, cool little town. So below the show notes here, you'll be able to go to that page. And if you're interested in coming out to the Winter Summit, all the information will be there. It'll be a blast. Probably 25, 30 of us again on the slopes. We do have a conference room. We'll mastermind, have dinners. it's a ton of fun every single time. They're more and more fun. So that is available to you guys. Tucker will be there. I will be there. Most of our team will be there. I think even some of our overseas team will be there, and a lot of clients, non-clients. It'll be a ton of fun. So that's coming up. Obviously, as you guys go into the new year, if you guys are in a position where you're really trying to pour some rocket fuel on what you're doing with your lead flow, your sales process, your team, we are a great option for you as well. But 2026 is something I want to talk about, Tucker, because it's asked a lot. I did the Wednesday weekly live call we do for our community this week, and that was one of the big questions is, hey, what's 2026 look like to you? And in terms of the real estate market, I know Trump's trying to get Powell out of town, and he's kind of demanding lowered interest rates. But where you're sitting, I know we're kind of armchair economists at the end of the day, all of us. But where you're sitting, where do you see 2026 going and playing out in regards to the real estate market, interest rates, all of that?
It's something I've been watching closely. Because the market it looked like it was going to pick up some steam a couple of months ago, and then it kind of slowed down again. In some areas, it's super slow. Some, not as much. The one thing I've been hearing here just from like realtors and other service providers are basically saying, that it's going to pick up. It's starting to pick up. I don't see it in the numbers yet, but that doesn't mean that there's not an increased level of interest in, buying houses, buying real estate. So we'll see. That's just kind of like my local comments here. But on more of like a macro level, I do think rates will come down a little bit. But to this point, the cuts in the Fed funds rate have done nothing to lower the yield on the 10-year bond, which ultimately drives mortgage rates. So without, the 10-year dropping down under 4, we're not really going to get a major downward movement in mortgage rates themselves. But they are doing, a little bit of, I know they don't want to call it quantitative easing, but essentially that's what it is. That's what they announced at the last Fed meeting. And so as they start to do that, that may help with mortgage rates, down the line. So we'll see. I have seen some weird predictions out there. I'll tell you this. I don't know if you saw some publication put out this article that was like, prices are going to drop more than they did in, the Great Recession this next year, and which I think is crazy. I mean, that's just nuts. Having, gone through that, owning a mortgage company and also, flipping a bunch of houses, building out this development company, like there's just, it's not possible. It just isn't. So that was an absurdity. But then, I haven't seen anybody say that it's going to be an ass kicking ripping year either. Best case is in terms of articles have been written by, Redfin or Realtor.com or something like that. They're backed by their economists or endorsed by it or whatever. Is like kind of, rates might be marginally lower and it'll be kind of a flat year for the most part. So I think that that's probably the case. But on the flip side, I think from the psyche of, the buyer, the consumer, you can only go so long without, re-engaging in buying real estate or wanting to buy real estate. And so I think as we get into this year, maybe the first part of it might be a little bit slow, but I think as we get into the spring and summer, if rates tick down at all, I think there will be a big increase in buyer activity. And so that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm looking for. I don't think it'll be worse than this year. I think that article where it's like, the prices are going to be, I think that's just a bunch of BS. I think it'll be incrementally better than this year. I don't know how much, but that's kind of, my take on it. But I don't know. What do you think?
I have a less data point driven answer, or more just like, I don't know, call it subjective opinion. I think that there's two ways. Well, I guess I'll also answer the same way I answered on the community call, which I think there's an external and an internal locus of control part of this. I think the external part is I don't see Trump wanting to leave office with the housing market doing anything but roaring. And the reality is it doesn't just bounce back in 2 months. Like you have to start putting things in play to let it heat up over a year or 2 or 3, unless you go to COVID mode and you just print quadrillion dollars in a couple months. So I think that 2026, going into his second full year, which, 4 years flies by, He's going to start really pulling levers to bring the housing market back to where it was when he left office in 2020 at the beginning of COVID. That is my kind of subjective, no data point driven. I know obviously the data point is that he's obviously been very vocal about that. He wants aggressive rate cuts. He wants all of that. So that is my opinion. I think a lot of the 50-year loan stuff, the assumable interest rate stuff, I think a lot of it is hype and them trying to throw out random ideas. I don't know if that'll happen or not. But I do think we'll see a pretty dramatic change start to happen in 2026. And the internal part is it doesn't matter. Like there's deals whatever is going to happen, it's not 2008. And people have been screaming it's 2008. Next year's 2008 since 2016. It's like Robert Kiyosaki. He's like, in his brain, he's like, if I predict the next crash every single year, eventually I'll be right. But 2026 not going to be 2008. Even if it's the same as 2025, there's deals happening. There's money being made, and you have to wake up and go, okay, most of this is still in my control. Yeah, my deals might not sell as fast. Yeah, I might have to work a little harder. But also the pro of that is all of the kind of rookies get booted out of the market. The harder it is and the longer it is hard for, a lot of your competition is just booted out of the market. And as much as it's harder, it also increases opportunity as well. And I've seen some people, and we have clients that started their business a year ago that have put, $1 million on the board in their first year. So you have to also look at the internal, what can I control? Really 95% of real estate's in your control, no matter what the market's doing. Unless we're in a 2008 and a major crash where it's like, shit, you can't pay someone to buy a house. But even then, people survived. They figured out short sales. They figured out a way to keep it going.
And surprisingly, people did buy fully retail priced houses back then. We sold a bunch of them. So it's not like you can't do it. And, price cures everything, right? Market, you just have to kind of play with the price points that the market allows you to play with if you want to buy and sell, right? But going back to a couple things you said, which number one, if people could foresee the future off data, they'd always be right? So I don't know that data points necessarily make your opinion correct. It just makes us feel smarter that we know these things, I guess, and that maybe that's how we come up with our opinion. But I do agree with just that kind of general sentiment feel. I think, the president's going to pull as many levers as he possibly can because that's what he wants to do. Now, a couple of things that he did mention, the 50-year mortgage and then the portable mortgages. I'll just bring this up real quick. I think the 50-year mortgage is probably something to do about nothing because generally, as you expand the term, the interest rate goes up. So any decrease in rates that we get in the 30-year mortgage over the next year is probably going to be, significantly higher to have a 50-year mortgage if they come up with that product. And so then, even with the extra amortization period, that added interest rate, it's probably going to be negligible, the difference in payment, really, and not enough to do anything for the market. So I think that's a much to do about nothing. If you do the math on it, you'd see that. I mean, maybe there's a few price points where it works well, but other than that, it's going to be tomato in terms of what it actually costs people to live in a house. The one idea that I did like is the portable mortgages, right? Where you can take the mortgage from your existing house and you can port that over to another one. Now, how much will that affect the market overall? I don't know, because it just depends on, you're going to have to cover the delta, right? In terms of if you're buying something else and down payment, otherwise you're going to have a new mortgage originated and you're going to have to get a different mortgage amount, which then makes that mortgage, irrelevant. It doesn't matter. You're going to have to just pay it off and then put whatever down payment down and get the new mortgage balance, whatever it is. So unless people have like a significant amount of cash and they can cover any delta, or it's just an exact match, which, is highly unlikely because there'll probably be loan to value limits and things like that they put on it. I like the idea, but again, I think it will only help a very small percentage of the market where it works. Where it works great, but I don't think it's going to be enough to drive the market in a positive direction. So just a couple of my thoughts on those things you brought up.
And I think there's a consumer education part of all this of like most 99% of the population who owns real estate don't understand how any of the loan products work. Like no one even knows what like a rate buy down is. They don't know the difference between a 10-year arm. They don't know, they don't understand. And so I think even if they put a lot of these things into place, it would take so long in my opinion, even if it was hammered on the news for people to really realize what that meant. And I think they'd be cool. I think they'd give people that are in the know options, and I think they would take those options. But I don't know if it would create this dramatic slide in people trading assets, which that's really what they're after. They just want people trading and doing. That's how our country runs. They just want people moving money around. Paying excise tags in Washington and just buying and selling real estate. All that. That's what they want.
Yeah. How can we create more real estate transactions, essentially,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And I think the surefire way to do that is to get rates under 5.5%. You do that, and you'll get a significant bump in the number of transactions.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's the easiest lever, and obviously it has downsides that they're trying to avoid if they do it too quick. But it's funny with the Doge and all this stuff. I think they just I think everyone's realized how screwed up it is, and I almost feel like over the last 6 months, they can't. It's kind of become this attitude of like, no one has the perfect answer to fix it. So let's just kind of keep going. And I feel like every administration, and I lean, more red than blue. Like I'm definitely conservative, but it's every, I heard a good quote. It was like, administration at the end of the day, a lot of their policies end up being kind of the same. And I think fiscally, obviously tariffs and stuff are working, but I don't think it's working as fast as they thought it would, or they wanted it to. And so I think there's going to be dramatic action, because that's how Trump rolls. Like I think if something's not going how he wants, it's dramatic action. It's not like, oh, let's just keep waiting and seeing. No, he puts his pedal to the metal on it. So I think that'll be an interesting thing to watch play out in 2026.
Yeah, we'll see. It's been an interesting 6 months of his presidency. So he's got a few holes to dig himself out of. So improving the housing market would be one that I don't think anybody would argue with him on that one if it happened, right? Everybody be in agreement. That's a good thing for our country.
He's good at blowing up boats in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Those videos, that thing's crazy to me, because they'll go on the Twitter account, like our military Twitter account, be like, hey, watch this 30-second clip of us like incinerating a boat in the middle of the ocean. It looks like a video game. It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, when I first saw that, I was like, they're literally blowing up boats in international waters 1,200 miles away from Florida. Like that boat can't get to Florida. There's not enough gas on that boat. They need 4 of them.
You can't stack that thing with enough little gas station red things of gas to get
and it's
anywhere.
Like if you really wanted to, if drugs were the real reason, which I don't want to get into this political discussion, but I'm just saying from like a normal person looking at it, be like, okay, yeah, we really think it's a drug boat. That's why we're going to bomb it. But we could just follow them with the drone and see where they go. And then when they come into port, you actually bust the mechanism which distributes it here in our country as well. Like that would seem like a better way to do it. But for whatever reason, that hasn't worked ever either in terms of keeping drugs out, but neither will this. So it's like, it's all just much ado about nothing. There's so much money in selling drugs in this country. That's why there's giant pharmaceutical companies. But on a street level too, they'll never be able to get rid of them. They'll never be able to get rid of them. People just make too much money, and it's just what it is. So yeah, I was like, what in the hell are they doing? Like playing a video game with fishing boats?
And it's like every single
fishing
time,
boats, they're not. But,
every single time they fire a missile, it's like $2 million. I'm like, they just spent $2 million to blow up a fishing boat.
Yeah. And he's got a cast of characters in his administration, I'll tell you that.
Some of them are leaving though. Bongino's out, and I don't know if you saw that. Bongino's going back to his show.
Well, he's my theory is that he got an off ramp, because usually when somebody leaves, like Trump, all he says is terrible things about him, right? And the only thing he said to this point is, I think he wanted to go do his podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
yeah, I saw that too. Usually that's not what you get.
No, so he got a free pass to get on the off ramp before I think he's going to cut off the arm to save the body. So, well, everybody can take that how they want to take it, but it allowed him to save some face that others may not, is my guess. But we'll see. Time will tell.
Well, cool. Well, that was a full show today, guys. I know we talked a lot about 26. We kind of went down different rabbit holes, but my biggest thing is, look at your internal locus of control as you head into the new year and what you can control. You can't control the market, the rates, as much as you want to, as much as you put on, post on Facebook about it. None of us have anything to do with, for the most part, where interest rates are going to be next year. But you can control your team, you can control your marketing, you control your sales, your focus, your effort, and that is what our clients and the people we talk to around the country are doing when they're winning. Below the show notes, you guys, you can check out the Winter Summit if you want to come out and hang out in Park City early February. It is the first, it's like a second weekend of February. All the information is there. If you want to join our community, a couple hundred people in there, a couple weekly live calls, and much more. And then if you want us to help you scale and build your acquisition side, the easybuttonrealestate.com is a place to go. As always, we don't put paid ads behind this show. We grow through word of mouth, and we've grown a lot in 25 and have big plans in 26. Tell a friend, tell a coworker. Let us know what we can do to be better for you guys. And as always, leave us a review. And until next time, you're only one deal away.